Ask any polar bear. Climate change sucks. I'm Scott Russell Smith, and I want to talk to you about the only actual solution to the problem of climate change. See, the problem has changed, and yesterday's solution won't solve today's problem. Let me show you what I mean. Let's pretend this glass is the atmosphere, and the cool, refreshing beverage in it, carbon dioxide. See, when we first started working on this problem, carbon dioxide levels in the air were going up because of all the fossil fuel we were burning. So the solution we came up with, which made perfect sense at the time, was to dump less carbon dioxide into the air by burning less fossil fuel. Sadly, instead of dumping less carbon dioxide into the air, we've been dumping more and more every single year. So reducing carbon emissions isn't going to solve the problem because there's already too much. See what I mean? If you drive a Hummer, it's like this. If you reduce your carbon emissions by, say, driving a Prius, well, it's kind of like that. See, reducing carbon emissions won't solve today's problem because there's already too much carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. Hybrid cars make less of a mess, but they still create carbon dioxide pollution. The only actual solution to having too much carbon dioxide in the air is to suck some out. I'm not making this up. The IPCC, the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, states in its most recent report that a large fraction of climate change caused by human activity is irreversible over the multi-century to millennial, 1,000-year time scale, except in the case of a large net removal of carbon dioxide from the atmosphere. Now, the good news about the only actual solution, a large net removal, sucking carbon dioxide out of the atmosphere, is that it's simple. The previous solution, trying to get international cooperation on reducing emissions, was complicated beyond belief. Local politics, geopolitical concerns, technological obstacles, regulatory hurdles, economic issues, and frankly, we failed. The only actual solution just requires a full court press to develop efficient, effective means of removing carbon dioxide from the atmosphere. So, how do you remove carbon dioxide from the atmosphere? Well, remember, plants, trees, grass, bushes, and shrubs, they all inhale carbon dioxide. So wouldn't it make sense to plant big forests to suck up carbon dioxide? Makes sense, right? And in fact, there are a lot of committed people who are doing that kind of work already. But trees have their limits. If you do the math, you'll probably find that the average mature forest can only suck up about 2 tons of carbon dioxide per acre every year. At the rate we're currently polluting, we'd have to plant a forest the size of the Sahara Desert to compensate for our carbon dioxide pollution. Which is why I said earlier that what we need is a full court press to develop more efficient, more effective ways of sucking up carbon dioxide out of the atmosphere. 2 examples that come to mind are bamboo, which removes 20 times as much carbon dioxide per acre as a typical forest, and algae, which grows in salt water and can remove more than 50 times as much carbon dioxide per acre as an average forest. But this is obviously a huge project, so where do you get the money for all of this? I think some of the money ought to come from people who are benefiting from burning all this fossil fuel. People like me. I mean, my house is warm and bright in the wintertime. I can watch movies in my living room. I drive my car 35 miles up the road to get a better job. And if I save enough money, I can fly to Europe in 8 hours. But other people are going to pay the price for my cushy life. People in India, Africa, and Southeast Asia will suffer from droughts, floods, and killer storms caused by a changing climate. Farmers all over the world will suffer devastating crop losses for hundreds of years to come. For me, this is a human rights issue, not a political one. It's about people who will suffer because of how we get to live today. Let's not make this political. You know how that works out. What if we work together on this one? What if we could convince the energy providers to put some money into developing better ways of sucking carbon dioxide out of the atmosphere? And what if for every tank full of gas I burn, I take responsibility for paying somebody to suck my carbon dioxide back out of the air? I would love to see the day when we have the option, right at the gas pump, to contribute enough to offset the carbon emissions of the fuel we're buying. I want to see an option on my home energy bills to request renewable energy as my first choice. But until that's universally available, I want the option to contribute a fair amount per kilowatt hour or BTU or cubic foot to offset my home energy use and maybe someone else's too. But to get the energy companies to work with us on this, we'll need to demonstrate that there's a market for services like carbon offsets at the pump. If this makes sense to you, I could really use your help. Join me. Go to climatechangesucks.org and make a commitment to being part of the solution, the only actual solution. Climate change hurts all of us, and all of our children, and all of their children. Climate change sucks. But if we suck enough carbon dioxide out of the atmosphere, we can prevent this disaster from happening. We have a choice. We could be the generation that wrecked the climate for 1,000 years. Or we can be the generation that had the vision and the courage to safeguard the climate for generations to come. I know who I want to be.